she's being teleprompted or being taped, one or the other.
Taped.
Just taped.
Just recording so she can watch it when she gets
Good.
back.
No, really, all we have to do, Marty, is approve the agenda. And then we
Okay,
can go into
so I asked for approval of the agenda.
the motion.
Yes.
Curtis?
Yes.
Smith? Yes. Scott? Yes. Becker?
All right, yes.
Now it's your-
All right, now, I have I'm going to teach a lesson today. This is my class. So, I'm here today to teach, okay? And what I consider when I asked the administrators to come, I really didn't expect a whole lot of other people to show up, but since you're here, you're now teachers. Because we're all teachers. That's our job. That's why we come to school every day, and that's why I'm still teaching. After 4 years of retirement from Knoxville, I'm still teaching, and I have to be at school by 8, so that's the reason we're at 6. This is called organizational support. The whole idea of why we do what we do is to support children. And those people that support them the closest are faculty. And so why are we here at 6 a.m.? There are no students in the building right now. So we can have meetings at 6 o'clock in the morning, how uncomfortable this is, but there are no students. Therefore, the jobs that we all have to do as teachers are not there. So no student in the building, and a focus on teachers and your personal health and mutual well-being is why I'm having this meeting. We're going to have a moratorium on meetings. So this will be an example of a 6 o'clock meeting that's very difficult for everyone. But we are going to not have meetings, and for the foreseeable future. This includes training, committees, with one exception, that is the building committee. We must have everyone feel like they need to support and go out and talk about that, because that is quickly approaching. So how we feel about what we're doing is very important. I was told last month that I would need a management system to see all the agendas for the school. Well, I decided I didn't need a management system. What I needed was no meetings. I was told by the superintendent that we could get a climate and culture study done for $10,000. Well, I'm confident that you can talk with every person that is related or works with you in your buildings, you as administrators, and ask the following 5 questions. Do you feel safe? And using a 1 to 5 scale on this, do you feel safe? Do you feel respected? Do you feel joy in your work? Do your views get consideration? And do you fear for your job? Do you have trust issues? I'd also ask that we have no PD at the high school other than PLC, and that we have no stress Mondays now concerning our Monday mornings. The other buildings can decide whether they could have PLCs or meetings or whatever else while Monday mornings, but try to make them stress-free. Topics for administration to consider. Discipline. How are we helping teachers, and what do we need to do? I'd recommend, and I just took this class, it's called Love and Logic. AE offers it. It's $135, and I'll ask Craig to reimburse any administrator that wants to take that particular class. But what it showed me was that unless we ask the questions, we'll certainly never get the answers. Lunch duty, middle school and high school. I would expect us to be walking around students and the administrators, now that they have no meetings and don't have to worry about anything other than the students, that we can keep order and not dump this on teachers. They can assist, but not solely teachers in the lunchroom. I expect you to have conversations with teachers concerning books, computers, learning, and just general conversations. I'd expect you to be able to just walk around and have some really nice conversations with people to see just how they're feeling. Special ed, how are we treating the associates? 'Cause I've heard some rather disturbing things, and I'd like to know what you're hearing. So talk to them. And how is special ed working? Talk to them. And I'd like for us to go on a bus ride once in a while, just to go see what the bus drivers are dealing with. Because some of them actually are holding classes on board the bus. They have a photo session, and they're doing all kinds of shows and things on the bus, and then there are others that are having much more difficulty and plan on not being bus drivers anymore. So we might want to check on that. Now, you as principals, if you had one wish to make your job easier, what would it be? I put cards up here if you'd like to have one. To write all those things down, I think Craig will get you the questions that I've asked and the topics that I've covered. But one wish to make your job easier, and so you can make other people's jobs easier. Because if anything I've noticed is that education today is enormously stressful. And if we don't take care of ourselves, nobody else is going to. So that's why I'm asking us to consider all these things. Now, St. Francis was told by God to rebuild my church. Well, brick and people. Question. When you're talking about rebuilding, I believe we need new facilities. But I also think that we need to make sure that the people inside those facilities feel valued. Your feedback, I'd say we're going to work this out among us, but I'd like to think that we could get some feedback from the administrators by our February board meetings. How many people did you talk to, and what kind of information you received. So that's my entire spiel.
Did we talk about this as a board, Marty, and I missed it? I'm hearing, is this just your opinion? 'Cause
This
I
is
feel
my
like-
opinion.
I feel like he's actually saying, speaking for the board, I want you all to know that is not correct right now. We have not chatted about this. We have not discussed
we've
this
not.
at all.
Not at
The
all.
board actually hasn't met at all to discuss our goals yet.
No.
No. Or our accountability.
And I will be first to say that I'm being, since I've been on the board now for 2 years, out of a sense of frustration concerning this. Part of that has to do with this, but that's why I'm also saying I'm being punitive at this point, because I have not had the board, and I will not ask for any kind of vote or recognition today, but it will be on the agenda for the next board meeting as to my punitive actions. So that's where we might have the argument.
I think if we're going to start talking about climate and culture, which is what we're doing today, right? We need to go from the top bottom, right? Start at the top. Who's the top? Us, right? Us. How are we doing? Community, how are we doing? I see a lot of you here today. Why are you here today? You're worried about us, aren't you? You're worried about us, right? I think you should be. I think you should be worried about us.
Well, I don't think it's an us. I think it's a me.
You think what?
I think it's a me. You need to
No,
worry
because
about
we're
me.
a team, Marty.
Oh,
We are a
no,
team.
I already stated that I'm being punitive here, and I just want to make sure that the community knows that this is strictly the way I feel about things, and that
It is, but let's
at
work
our
together.
next meeting, we will discuss this, and then we will come to a term. If I am not able to proceed with this, if our need can't be wrong. I absolutely admit I can't be wrong. So I just noticed that just by my one little request to have a 6 o'clock meeting, y'all showed up. That tells me volumes that you have concerns, and I want to meet the community's concerns. So here we are, and I'm glad you're here. So now I'll open the floor up now. If anybody has any comments that they'd like to say about our culture in our school.
Well, I do want to start with the 6 a.m. meeting. We
Okay.
do. So as a board member, I wasn't consulted at all
No.
about this time or this date. I was simply dictated to.
No.
Were you guys consulted? Were you asked?
No, but I have no problem with it.
Good. How about you, Larry?
No, but at the same time,
Out of
It is
mutual
what it is.
respect, just giving a shout out, give me a few more extra days to be able to rearrange my schedule. Make sure that all of our board members are able to attend, especially in a work session that is this important, that is this sensitive, that is this emotional. We need to make sure we have everybody accounted for at the table. So I just asked, in the future, would you please consult, there's only 4 of us.
Mhm.
Just give me a shout out, I'd be happy to give you my numbers and say,
And
hey, this
that'd
okay?
be helpful. And number 2 is, I wasn't sure whether we'd have a quorum this morning or not. I was just wanting to talk to the administrators. I wanted to get some feedback from them.
Let's do that. We have half an hour, let's do that. Let's start asking. Do any of you guys mind speaking up and just giving us a little insight about the climate and the culture in your school? I don't want to put you on the spot. Hey, go, John.
Northshore Elementary, we're very proud of what we have established. Culture and climate, I think, is tremendous. I think it's been that way for years. Super excited about the learning on Monday mornings, the time to give elementary a chance to have PLC conversations with each other.
What's PLC?
Professional learning communities.
Thank you.
Where you're meeting and discussing learning, lifelong learning.
Okay.
But the thing I like about the Mondays is they get to meet, they get to talk. We have building meetings and we have grade level meetings essentially. But it's a great time for collaboration. Again, when the kids are not there, it's tremendous. And I guess I have zero concerns with culture and climate, except if we're not being supported. And I hope that that's not the case, but I don't know. I know, yes, we have things that happen daily that can be upsetting. My 4th grade team was actually at the last board meeting, and 2 months ago, we were struggling. We had a ton of concerns and emotions flying around with some really tough situations with students. There are a lot of laws that tie your hands on how you can handle behavior situations. And so there's just a lot that goes into that. It's a tough world, and everybody gets a free public education, essentially. But I think we can throw that in. I mean, right now, I'm dying to get back to the building because those kids that show us the most behavior, they need to see us the most today. They need us to be back. They need to be back in our buildings because they know they're loved. They have warm meals. And we need to be there for them. So I don't have concerns. I have a couple of staff members here. Glad to see them here. When I saw culture and climate, I don't have concerns from North Star. As a district, maybe I will. As a parent, community member, and administrator, this is concerning. That's all I'll say.
Do you have anything in place at your school where someone can anonymously express a grievance at all?
I'm sure there are processes there. I know they
I do have something I want to ask sometime for information. I'd like to have some indication of longevity of teachers. What buildings are keeping their teachers? What buildings are losing their teachers, and how long they're averaging out? I'd like to find that out. I'd like to find out, if we have an idea of why they leave, I'd like to know what's going on there. I treasure teachers with a lot of experience. I do. And I'm afraid sometimes we lose people just about the time they start gaining the experience we want. We lose them. And that's perception, and I don't know if it's real or not. But I'd like to have some data.
Do we do a post-employment interview? Okay, next interview.
I do as well,
You do as well for,
to try to get the truth.
oh, you go and find them
I find them.
specifically and then feel like that's more of an anonymous way of, like they can tell you
Absolutely.
then.
No one wants to carry
That with them,
burn
sure.
their bridge, when they go into new positions.
Do you keep that data then?
I do.
Awesome, okay. So then we can retrieve some of that from you. Good.
Yeah. Which is one of the reasons led to my wanting to have this meeting. And have the community talk about it, and you have, which I appreciate. And I appreciate you putting your Facebook out there to get feedback and to allow us to start dialogues that are necessary. Not to pick on anybody, but just to have a dialogue. And I taught with, I believe, two of you when I was in the building. Both of which I respect your abilities in special ed, and I also know that that is a growing population, and how we deal with it in the future is going to be a significant part of our planning. So how are we going to do that? Because at this moment in time, I believe, if I'm correct, that West is a little limited on space when it came to our special ed areas, right?
What do you mean by space?
Do they all have enough space?
Space is limited in the building, the whole building, not just special ed.
The special ed people approached me, talked directly to me about their needs, so.
I'm asking this to administrators. If, on your Monday morning meetings, would you be terribly offended if I came and sat in just like a fly on the wall? Not to be, just not to put anything in, just to watch? Would that be okay?
Yeah, donuts.
Do I need to announce ahead of time?
Yeah,
Will I
would you bring donuts?
You can, if you want. That doesn't let me be a fly on the wall, but if you want donuts, I'll bring donuts. But I would like to come and sit on some Monday morning sessions just to see what's going on. Just for my own understanding, not for a problem, just for me to understand what's going on. Would that be okay with you guys? I see a lot of guys doing this. Some guys, I think, in their heads are going, no.
I would like to also, Larry. I think it's a great idea.
Sherry and Larry, we were just told we can't have those though, so that's gonna have to be
So
rectified.
if I show up, don't be offended, don't be
I don't think
worried.
we made a
I'm just a
decision
fly on the wall,
today.
wanting to know what's
It's
going on.
not concrete, no.
No, that was Marty's
just my
suggestion.
suggestion, and
Marty's
now
suggestion.
I said I was being punitive, and now we'll move it to the agenda, and then we'll have a conversation.
One of the things I need to talk about the KEA is, my perception is that most of the meetings are really, really good from the teacher standpoints, but some are not. And so I just wanted to come in and see what's going on.
I'm hearing that same thing too, as Larry is. Definitely validate that.
And I would like to ride the bus
Me too,
once or twice.
especially Dan Nichols.
I have a little different
The bus is fun.
perspective, because I kept on teaching for 2 years during these changes, and had to sit through the PLCs and the meetings, and I can tell you that was a struggle. struggled. So that's from firsthand.
You didn't find value in those meetings?
I found them very difficult. So if that's where I am.
I've heard a little bit of both. I've heard some teachers that, yes, very much, they learn, it's great. Others not, so I think, yes, we probably need to investigate.
My perception as a whole, that things seem to be going the right direction. I don't know. That's my perception. I know there's a few glitches. I know there's a few rough spots. That's something we need to work at smoothing out or fixing. But I think overall, things look like they're going in the right direction. Things are going kind of like I would like to see it go. I'm very proud of the accomplishments of this school system overall this last several years. So this isn't a thing meant to burn down the barn. It's not meant to do that. Maybe it's just meant to fix a few boards and paint a little bit. But I don't see any, but maybe I'll find out different. I've got a few people I see in here and they tell me what they think pretty quick. My perception is things are going pretty good. I don't know. Shake your head no if I'm saying this wrong. But like I said, I'd like to watch and see what boards need painting and what boards need replacing and things like that.
And I would agree with Larry. I have like 4 pages of testimonials there. I found it the most interesting that every testimonial that I got from a kid in the school, and I have everything down from elementary to high school, children that I've talked to over the last 48 hours. And man, they're happy. They are proud of us. They think we're giving them a really good, solid college education, or high school and elementary education. In fact, I had at least 15 college students that graduated from KHS in my house this week. They all were like, no, it was a good place to learn. So if it's any indication, the children are happy. So that must mean we're doing something correctly. But as Larry said, there's always room for improvement.
And most of you people in various capacities have learned from me, having dealt with me. If I see an issue, I come and talk to you personally, so that it never needs to go beyond you and me, and nobody else ever needs to know about it. You can get it fixed. And I think some of you have had that experience with me in the past. And somebody brings up a concern, I bring it to you first and say, let's get this taken care of. That's the thing I continue to do. That's one reason why I want to go sit in some of these meetings. That's why I want to do that, to find out where things can be fixed the best. And that way the problem gets solved quickly and efficiently. And so as far as my concern is, when I talk to you people, most things have gotten fixed pretty quick. And I like it that way. I don't like to drag anything out. And so when you hear me talk to you, I'm just sharing a concern, and between the two of us, we can fix this thing. That's kind of the way I like to keep things. So I don't know how else to say it. I think all of us on the board would like to have that kind of rapport, where we can just take care of business and not drag into something that turns into something big. But if you have a problem, by all means, let me know, and that way I can take care of my little way. It works. That way you guys never hear about it.
I do want to maybe revisit the survey aspect of it, because just doing the work I did find that there's pockets of places within our district where people don't feel safe to express how they're feeling or their thoughts because they can't remain anonymous. And so I know a survey is expensive, but I do want to chat about that. I don't know if that's now or at the next agenda or at the next meeting. I do fear that there is a certain level of our staff that's unable to speak up because they fear being targeted. And I don't want that to be happening under there, because I think we need to take care of those issues and make ourselves better. Again, not trying to be punitive. I'm not trying. We are all on one happy, big team. We have to work together to get through our issues and our problems and make our school district stronger and better. And we can't do that if we don't talk about the difficult conversations. Which I'm glad Marty is bringing this up.
I just started the conversation.
Yeah.
And I will take all the heat for it. And I did get a note from the mayor. Mr. Hatch was telling me how happy the relationship was between the city and the school. And I had him in class. And he was always the one worried about the fact that I gave him $1,000 to invest. And he decided what to invest in, and then he checked it every single day, and he made me $300. And 2 days later, it went up where he made $16,000. So he always felt pretty bad about that one, but sometimes 400 is better than nothing. So I wasn't sure if I'd be able to have a conversation with the administrators today. I guess I understand the feelings of not being able to express, but when I hear, and I heard this not directly but indirectly, that administrators said that they were only spending 5.5 days in their building because of meetings. I just thought that was time in which I put this note out and said, let's talk, because 5.5 days, you're more valuable in the building, and you're more valuable to those kids than that. So
You mean 5.5 or 2.5?
I mean, 2.5 days out of the week, out of the 5-day week, I'm sorry, yeah, that they spent in their building because of meetings. So,
Do you think that's a correct reflection of what your week looks like, guys? No? You think you're in there more than 2.5 days? Or do you think you're in meetings a lot? How about you, Tracy? No? You don't? You think you're in the building quite a bit?
Not for, only time we're not in the building is it's not district requested meetings, it's state requested meetings. Those occasionally occur, but
Usually you're physically in your building. You do have meetings. Can you describe just like what the week is for teachers? Like what do they come here Monday mornings, or are they always in their buildings?
They're always in their buildings on Monday mornings.
How often do admin, excuse me, get together and meet on a weekly basis?
We have changed, so for about a year, we just met once a month.
Okay.
And we usually started at 8 a.m. and sometimes we were done by 1:30, and sometimes it was 3 o'clock, and sometimes it was 5 o'clock, depending on the month and all of the stuff coming out. We recently have changed that to where we just meet at 1 o'clock on Monday afternoons, and we're usually back in their buildings by 3.
Okay, for dismissal. I think the perception out there, as Marty said, the perception is from, I think, the staff that the principals and admins are not in the buildings is kind of what we hear. But maybe that's not correct.
When I need a fireman, it's not there. So,
You hear that?
I hear that.
Okay.
And,
So we probably need to work on that, how that
yep.
is
So
the perception.
I think the conversation is going exactly the way I'd like it to go. So that's to study this, get feedback, and try to figure this out so that you can be there when the kids are, and you can look at the things that need to be looked at. Just
So,
support.
How do we collect that data then, Marty?
Well, I put it on again on the administrators to tell me, and I gave them just 5 simple questions. All I want them to do is have a dialogue, and they can bring it back. Do people feel like you're there, or do they feel like I had a kindergarten teacher tell me there was no substitute? I had a resources we need, I'd like to work with Greg and Cassie to get the resources that are needed to be able to help you. But, you know, it's kind of a funny world we live in, that we'll make do has gotten to be our mantra, and we accept things that we shouldn't accept because, well, it's just the way it is. Well, it isn't. It doesn't have to be. So let's talk about it. Yep.
I don't think you're gonna get real results by having the administrators talk to the teachers individually. I think it has
How
to
do you
be,
feel about the survey then?
I think it has to be anonymous if you want real input.
Input that's
Yeah.
valuable.
Part of my
Realistic.
position with the KEA, but I only hear negative. Because that's my job, is to hear the negative. But I think if you want real input, you need an anonymous survey.
10,000, is that what you said for a survey?
Actually, I didn't say a number. I said that in a previous district, when we were talking about the same thing, there are companies out there that actually have research-based, valid, reliable measures, and they cost money.
They do.
And I said, when we looked at that, to get the full suite up there, it was roughly $10,000. It was 8 years ago, and it
Okay.
was a different size of district. So I have no idea what the cost would be for us to get a professional company that does that for a living. I will tell you.
You know what, I'm
part of
sorry on
my-
this one, I gotta disagree with you. We have a whole bunch of professionals out there already. And I think they could give us the stats, and I don't need to pay $10,000 to an outsider to tell us what people inside know. I really don't. I'm sick to death of paying for professionals when we've got professionals. I really am.
We do, Larry, but just the testimonials I have 6 people that want to be anonymous. That's almost
Then leave it,
half of
let
them.
them stay anonymous. That doesn't bother me any.
How can they
It's the
do that,
data that
though?
you're after.
I think that they can't, they're going to have a hard time speaking up. I mean, these people had to trust me in order to give me their view, and they still wanted to remain anonymous, but they had to come to somebody, so they couldn't stay 100% anonymous.
There are ways of doing things anonymously.
Like surveys.
Surveys.
We need to,
So can we
Investigate.
just at least, because I think it's gonna come down to money, how much it's gonna cost. It's not, I don't think Larry's disagreeing that it's a terrible idea to have a survey. I think he's disagreeing that he doesn't want to pay the money out of the district for it, which I get it.
I believe AEA has a survey, do they not?
don't
I
know.
believe
Can we
they
just-
do. But I'd like to, that would be one we've already paid for, kind of a survey, because we contract with them, so. But that's along the lines that I'd like to see, where we get a real picture. And, you know, this is where it gets real tricky, because divisiveness, having camps of people on either side is not good for the district. And so let's try to get to a point where we can satisfy those individuals that feel bad.
I'm good.
Yeah, good. Knowing the difference is do you
Right.
feel joy?
But getting to the truth,
Yeah,
I think is.
that's all we really want.
And then, because we can work from that.
Exactly. My mouth's so dry, it's like cotton.
I'd like to, if anybody's, unless somebody's not ready to talk out there, go back to the question you asked Ryan over at West. I think that what was meant by the not enough room for special ed, where's Ryan at?
Here.
There you are, okay. The impression I got from KA was not so, it had to do with, and I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but space between different kids with different levels of needs, yes, yeah, and I think there was an example of one kid that's really, he'll just get excited, and another kid was was doing something and it was making him, is getting him agitated or something like that, but just, I think that's what was meant by, you know, individual space or something like that. I don't know what the correct term is for that, but anyway, just, I think they meant more space between kids with different needs. And I don't know about walls or anything like that, but just, that's what I got from that. As someone who has worked in the district for 17 years, I can tell you that a lot of what's being said here is true. Back when I started, I remember we had a lot of older teachers, mid-level teachers. And to me, they were the ones that, as Larry said, need to be treasured. And I don't believe they are treasured anymore. And I don't know if it's just, and I don't think it's just a Knoxville thing. I think that's the trend. And it's not a good trend at all. They also, as an older teacher, they tend to speak out more for whatever reason. And for that reason, I believe they get targeted. And I've heard it many, many times. And it's a fact. And Sherry, I disagree with you on pockets thing. There's not just pockets of, I don't know if you call it distrust or whatever, about not being able to speak out, but it's widespread.
It's everybody.
It's not everybody. There's I would say 3/4, somewhere around there, is don't feel like they can speak out, give their opinion, whatnot. And I don't know. It's just it needs to be addressed. And I think we need to continue to talk about it and make some decisions or whatever. But and going way back to we talked about safety, and that, to me, that has to do with the principals being in their building more. I've been a part of meetings that lasted. Luckily, I didn't have to stay the whole time. But I've been a part of meetings that I know lasted all day long, and it's just I don't know what the word is for it, but it's beyond me how a meeting can last all day. They just don't need to be that way. So, but to me, safety is key. It's if the principal's in the building, greeting the kids every morning, whatever they need to do. Teachers are out there greeting the kids, whatever. Kids need to feel safe. Teachers need to feel safe. And I think that would just translate into everything being better. Just the whole climate. So, that's said about that.
So just for your point of reference, this current school year, 57% of our teachers are on longevity. You guys all know what that means. We're at the very bottom of their lane on our salary schedule. They've completed that number of years. 57%, 76 out of 134.
Could you dumb that down for me? A second.
So on our salary schedule, you have lanes for your educational level, and then you have years of experience.
And you keep building as
And
we go
once
down.
you
So
don't get
pass
onto
over to the
longevity
next.
until you go past that final year on the salary schedule. So you've been teaching for a number of years.
Then you get a guarantee.
But you don't have longevity
2.5%.
at the lane one, or lane A or
You
lane,
can have longevity in whatever lane you're in.
Every lane has longevity.
which means they can sit in their deal and not gain
Like
more
BA,
experience
BA all the
in
way
their
down.
field.
No,
Have they worked toward their masters? Have they worked toward?
that's their own personal choice.
Okay.
See, I was BA all the way down.
Okay. I'm just.
My point-
I
my
thought
point
you
is
had to
just
go a
that-
certain point before you got longevity.
It is, you have to be at that, you
And
have to be.
on the sidestep wise,
No,
so from the very first lane,
yes.
okay.
So,
I
my
don't know
point
how that
is
breaks
just
down,
that
too.
57% of our teachers receive longevity pay. So,
Is that 2 or 2.5%?
2.5% of base every year.
What's the most years experience in, say,
Uh,
level A? I don't know, is it 1 and then A for the steps, or is it? What's
It
the
would
first
take
one?
me a little bit
8
longer
years?
to figure that one
I
out.
mean, but is it 8 years,
No, it's 15 years.
15 years to get to
Oh,
longevity?
yes.
From the very first level?
Yes.
From the very first line?
Yes.
Yes, you have
And
to be
they've done no growing educationally?
well, they had to
Stayed
get
on lane one.
relicensure. They've had to have some kind of a relicensure credit to renew their
But
Okay,
license.
they haven't gone to a bachelor's plus 15, or a bachelor's
Yeah.
plus 20, or a bachelor's
Right.
plus
I was
30?
I was at 30.
Okay.
30.
And I'd have to break it down a lot further to get you,
Okay,
this is how
15
many in
years,
lane
okay.
one, this is how many in lane two. I don't have that right here.
Out of 134 teachers, our average year of experience is 13.
What step? I mean, I'm talking about educational level, what step are they staying at? What step does the majority of them tend to be? Are they master level?
mean what lane?
Bachelor's plus 30, bachelor's
BA, yeah, I
plus?
don't,
BA plus what?
I don't know. I don't know where the numbers hit as far as, we have this many in lane one, this many in lane two. I'd have to, give me a little time. We can do it, I just don't have that right now.
I feel like we're a little remiss in not expecting them to get over horizontally a little bit more.
I understand that,
Faster.
I'm just saying that, as long as I've been here, that's always been a personal choice on the teacher, not,
Okay.
hasn't been mandated.
I remember I was a master's plus 45 for my last 15 years.
Right.
And I think that's what I expect out of
I understand that, but the way the system works right now, that's, there's nothing mandated by state, school district, board, or anything of saying, you as a teacher, you're expected to move across.
I think we need to say that we value
Yeah,
that,
that's a discussion.
that kind of growth. That's something I'd like to put into the discussion. I know the KEA may disagree with me on that, Matt. I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't, but maybe they should. Maybe they should say, we expect our people to gain in expertise in their own fields.
Maybe the deal should be sweetened.
Mhm.
Maybe the deal should be sweetened.
That's a good possibility there too. That's part of the conversation. But nobody should stay where they started in a career.
I think in your particular circumstance, Matt, weren't you helped by the school to get your master's? Or were you not? A little bit?
$300.
Is that all?
It was something.
Yeah, I know, but
It was something.
that was sad. Okay, sorry I brought that up.
I think some encouragement is a big deal here, but no, like I don't want to repeat myself over and over again. That sounds redundant, but as I said,
Anything further? Food for thought? I think that's what we got. So, thank you for attending, but I did make my point. Thank you.
Thanks for coming,
And
everybody.
I don't need to adjourn, I think since there are no votes or anything. Right? Okay, it's over. Thank
I
you.
hope you enjoyed your 4 o'clock as much as I did.
Yeah, Marty, don't go 6 in the meeting.